Fox 45 presses city leaders on youth violence after another student is gunned down this week, why residents say police aren't doing enough. Back and forth over Baltimore's Conduit deal continues, how city leaders may have wanted to keep the deal with BGE private. Plus, 4 Americans kidnapped and 2 killed in Mexico. Why Texas lawmakers are asking Congress to get involved in thwarting cartel operations.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Just begin to think about the life and the future of that life that's now gone.
All day long. And we call the school, we call the police department. There's nothing has been done about it.
A community still in pain after 16-year-old Isaiah Carter was shot and killed this weekend near Patterson High School in East Baltimore. Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Carter's death marks 6 Baltimore City students killed so far this year. And despite that sobering statistic, youth crime wasn't a main talking point at today's safety hearing inside City Hall. Fox 45's Vincent Hill explains.
It was a packed house full of city leaders inside these doors at City Hall, but one resident I spoke with says it's promises he's heard one too many times. Across Baltimore City, crime seems to be the same story, different day for most residents, leaving many frustrated and dealing with loss like Larry Small.
I'm tired of seeing people dying. My little cousin, I say last year he died over a dice game.
His cousin's murder still unsolved, just one in a string of juvenile deaths.
I feel like the police not really doing their job. I feel like they know that they got drillers and guns out here. They're not really doing nothing. They just sitting here, just let it happen.
The committee will have a hearing on legislative oversight.
During a public safety meeting, Commissioner Harrison and City State's Attorney Ivan Bates addressing the city's crime problem, saying the fight on crime starts with partnerships.
Everything we're doing is synchronized.
Meanwhile, Ivan Bates pushing his House Bill 481, which calls for tougher gun sentences. But Councilman Zeke Cohen asking for more after 16-year-old Isaiah Carter was shot and killed near Patterson High School, the district he oversees.
I am curious when we will see, as a city, when our communities can expect that we will disrupt, we will intervene, and we will not tolerate folks who are causing harm, committing crimes pretty blatantly in our neighborhoods.
Fox 45 asking Commissioner Harrison about the number of juvenile deaths in Baltimore.
Not just juvenile crime and juveniles being victims of crime, but we're concerned about juveniles committing crime.
Commissioner Harrison acknowledging Baltimore has a problem with juveniles having access to guns.
Now it's time to figure out how to hold those individuals accountable for illegally carrying those guns and how to change their mind about carrying guns, because carrying a gun is the precursor to the shooting.
For people like Larry Small, those words are ones he's heard before and has little faith that things will change.
At the end of the day, it's going to get worse.
Meanwhile, Commissioner Harrison praising the number of guns taken off the street last year here in Baltimore, but he does acknowledge there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to getting guns out of the hands of juveniles. At City Hall, Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Well, of the 6 Baltimore City school students killed this year, 1 died in Towson. 17-year-old Trayshawn Harmon's death, the latest in a series of violent incidents in Baltimore County. Fox 45 News is pressing County Executive Johnny Olszewski for his thoughts on bills that would increase penalties for illegal gun ownership and gun theft.
I don't know that we've weighed in specifically on those pieces of legislation, but we support legislators taking action to make sure our communities are safe.
Well, so today, Fox 45 sent Olszewski the specific legislation and again asked if he supports the bills. His office still not taking a stance. According to a statement, they are closely monitoring the situation in Annapolis. 31-year-old Quanta Worrell of Baltimore has been sentenced in an ambush killing in March of 2020. Worrell met 2 men in Park Heights, directed them down the street, then shot them at least 20 times while they were inside their car. Worrell was convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder. He will spend life in prison.
At this hour, the East Baltimore community is gathering to remember the life of 54-year-old Alfred Fincher. Fincher was killed about a week ago after 2 cars crashed into a building during a police chase, causing it to collapse on top of him. Maryland Attorney General's office has released body camera and security footage of that police chase in which officers were pursuing a stolen vehicle. It showed the crash and subsequent collapse. Now, that tragedy raises concerns about when police should and shouldn't pursue suspects.
In most departments in the country, they're not allowed to chase. Officers are not allowed to chase anymore for property crimes because of fatalities and injury accidents that have happened to innocent citizens over the years.
Again, this accident happening a month ago. Baltimore police have not said if the officers involved are being disciplined, but Maryland Senator Joe Carter wants legislation to put in place to prevent what she calls unnecessary car chases that put the public's life at risk. A bill she introduced did not receive any votes.
Kai, thank you. Maryland lawmakers are looking to close a loophole in Noah's Law, passed in 2016 to honor Montgomery County police officer Noah Leota, who was killed by a drunk driver. The law mandates the use of an interlock device or breathalyzer inside the car of anybody convicted of a DUI, proving they're sober before the car can start. It is designed to make sure those people don't become repeat offenders. But the law doesn't apply to people who plead guilty and receive probation. The new bill hopes to amend current laws to allow to also apply to those on probation. Well, city leaders split over a new Conduit deal between Mayor Scott and BGE. And now Fox 45 News is obtaining documents showing how the city wanted to keep the deal quiet. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost explains from the accountability desk.
There's a lot of new information, and I want to walk you through it using our whiteboard. We know the city has already cashed a $14 million check from BGE. That was part of that controversial Conduit contract. While the debate continues over whether that Conduit contract was actually approved during the February 15th Board of Estimates meeting, these documents obtained by Fox 45 News really shed some light into how much the city did to keep that Conduit deal under wraps. And here's a new player in this conversation, David Ralph. He's the general counsel for BGE and has been since 2021. But before that, he was the top attorney for the city and helped negotiate the contract between these two in 2016. Here's an email from David Ralph sent to the city, including Jim Shea, who used to be the city solicitor. And remember that name because we'll come back to it. But in this email, dated November 15th, 2022, it outlines a non-disclosure agreement between BGE and the city all over this Conduit deal. Here's a copy of that draft agreement between the city and BGE over the Conduit deal. Let me put up just the front page on the whiteboard. According to the emails that we have, it shows that people within BGE and City Hall spent weeks going over the language of the Conduit deal itself, as well as the NDA, and eventually, Ebony Thompson got involved. Thompson is the acting city solicitor. She took over when the previous solicitor retired in January. And going over the Conduit deal itself, we have a few key takeaways. BGE does not have to comply with Baltimore's local hiring rule. Gives power from the city's Conduit division to BGE to determine what Conduit projects are completed. And it also gives BGE flexibility to determine where to do Conduit repair. David Ralph isn't the only one with connections to BGE and the city. This is Jim Shea. He's the former city solicitor, but he also used to be the chairman of the law firm Venable, the same firm that helped BGE's parent company Exelon merge with Pepco in 2016. And that brings us back to Ebony Thompson, because she also used to work at the same law firm as Jim Shea. And according to her LinkedIn, she too worked on that Exelon-Pepco merger in 2016. And then there's Calvin Butler. He is the CEO of Exelon, but he was with BGE at the same time that Shea was working with Venable, helping everybody with that merger. The city council continues to hold investigative hearings into this contract between BGE and the city. There was another hearing on Tuesday night, really highlighting the divide between some members of City Hall, especially of the council, and the mayor himself.
This vote is valid.
The deal was not executed.
This is a done deal. We're acting on the deal.
And now we have City Comptroller Bill Henry and Council President Nick Mosby both maintaining that because they boycotted that Board of Estimates meeting on February 15th, that the contract between the city and BGE isn't actually finalized. Now there's some debate about whether the state attorney general will get involved in this issue, but either way, There are still some questions about who was really pushing for this deal between the city and BGE. Now, we've submitted a public records request to get more information and more emails between the mayor's office, the solicitor's office, and people within BGE to find out exactly the timeline of this Conduit deal. Now, legally, that means the city will be forced to turn over some information. So far, we haven't gotten anything, but we will continue to push for those records. At the Accountability Desk, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
So what does the deal mean for you? If you're a BGE customer, your monthly bill will increase by about $10 each of the next 3 years a month. That means you'll pay about $124 more annually for utilities. You can see a breakdown of the costs on foxbaltimore.com. Well, baseball is coming to Camden Yards a little earlier than expected this year. UMBC and Navy will play a game 3 weeks from tonight, March 29th. All tickets are $10, and a portion of the proceeds will go to the Yellow Ribbon Fund, which benefits wounded veterans. All Navy and UMBC students, they get in for free. Well, coming up, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell hints at the possibility of another interest rate hike, why his testimony on Capitol Hill leaves some questions.
And we've got a good-looking overnight on the way, but it is going to be chilly. Temperatures falling down to around freezing by about 3 a.m. and still a little bit of a breeze going. I'll let you know we could have some snow in the forecast in my Weather Authority forecast.
Well, a tragic case of mistaken identity as 4 Americans are kidnapped and 2 killed across the Mexican border. Tonight, Texas leaders are pushing for Congress to take action against cartels. Matt Roy from our Sinclair sister station in San Antonio explains.
Cartel violence isn't new. It's been around for decades.
For the first time, I think
in a very long time, it's got the American people's attention, and it's got people up in Washington's attention.
South Carolina Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has now renewed the request to reclassify certain cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Texas Democratic Congressman Vicente Gonzalez says he's open to all options, but something has to be done.
When you see some of the violence that has happened in Mexico over the years, it's nothing short of terrorism.
All of a sudden start to say that we're going to declare the cartels terrorist organizations and potentially send military force into Mexico, I think is a huge step.
UTSA political science chair John Taylor says allowing this would be a bad idea.
While the Mexican government is having difficulties, it's more of a case of trying to support them and their efforts.
On the other hand, Dante Sorianello, a retired DEA special agent in San Antonio, says designating drug cartels as terroristic organizations must happen. But it is a complicated issue.
Additional authorities would be authorized by the United States government, and that would include the use of military going after these individuals where they're based.
Meaning that if the U.S. sent military into Mexico to sniff out the drug cartels and the Mexican government was not on board, it could be taken as an act of war.
Working together is the first step. It would put the fear of God into the drug traffickers if we went after them like we go after terrorist cellheads.
In San Antonio, I'm Matt Roy.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell testifying before the House Committee on Financial Services. He says no decision has been made on another interest rate hike, but he is keeping an eye on a few factors.
Restoring price stability is essential to set the stage for achieving maximum employment and stable prices over the longer run. The historical record cautions strongly against prematurely loosening policy.
Powell's cryptic response leading to a mixed finish to the day on Wall Street. The Dow closed in the red, while NASDAQ and the S&P 500 saw slight increases.
All right, taking a look outside right now. A beautiful sunset underway on the Toyota Ishida Harbor Skycam. Hard to believe in a week. This is going to be an hour later. 50 degrees, clear skies right now. Winds out of the north-northwest at 11 miles an hour. Humidity is dry at 36%. These temperatures in the upper 40s to right around 50 area-wide. They feel a little bit cooler, about 5 to 10 degrees down with some of the wind. And notice the colder temperatures that are festering off to our north. And they're so cold, in fact, that the next weather maker has some not only rain but also snow included. Winter storm warnings, and in fact, for portions of the upper Midwest around Minneapolis, and winter weather advisories here near Rapid City in the Dakotas. All of that is moving eastbound, and we are, well, at least now situated in some cool air. Some colder air is off toward north and west, and that will be a part of our next weather maker with the warmth kind of locked down to the south. So unlike what we saw earlier in the winter, we're going to be on the colder side of this next weather makers or next storms track. So we track this through Thursday and on into Friday, and look at that. Some of that orange is some rain snow mix. The blue is some wet snow, and the green is rain, and that's what moves in here for Friday. Let's track it a little more close up on the future scan. And now, some things to be aware of here. Although it is cold, you see there 8 a.m. Thursday morning, temperatures close to freezing when you wake up, and you probably need some jackets for tomorrow afternoon with highs in the 40s to right around 50. Although it is cold, we are dealing with, as that next system moves in early Friday, temperatures that are generally right at or above freezing, and also the fact that we're now in March, mid-March, and the sun angle is higher. So even when you have clouds and you have rain and snow falling, still the pavement really reacts pretty quickly to that, and that takes those pavement temperatures, especially when the temperatures are above freezing as well. So if you do get those heavier bursts of snow, usually that would happen mainly with accumulations on the unpaved surfaces. So again, it's something to watch, something to track, and we'll keep a close eye on this. But usually this time of year, when this type of system comes at us, unless it's really coming down gangbusters and you really have that cold air locked in, and it happens overnight especially, any of these accumulations that we're expecting, maybe a few tenths of an inch of snow, would primarily be car tops, grassy surfaces. And maybe even here in the city we'll see some snow. But again, it should not be more so than, I think, wet on the road surface. Nonetheless, we will track it. 30 degrees, clear skies, cold for tonight. Tomorrow we're at 52. Good day to walk the dog with partial sunshine. You're probably also going to need a jacket there. I'm going to let you know how long it stays cold around here. That's going to be my exclusive 10-day forecast coming up.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
People in northern Michigan woke up Tuesday morning to these snow rollers. They form when strong winds blow snow that isn't compacted, but rather loose with temperatures near freezing. If the wind is too strong, they just rip apart. And 1 week after the Las Vegas area saw a rare March snowstorm, this beautiful sunrise started the day. Highs were expected in the mid-60s.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on Instagram.
Baltimore leaders have pitched cash incentives to curb crime, like paying squeegee kids to stay off street corners. And it's not an idea unique to Charm City. Most recently, Syracuse, New York is considering paying stipends to gang members to keep them out of trouble. But how effective are these programs? Mary Keller from our Sinclair sister station in Syracuse looks at the results.
Gun violence is being called an epidemic by experts across the country. But could there be a way to keep people likely to pull the trigger from doing that? Jim Dudley is a retired officer from the San Francisco Police Department. He says Richmond, California introduced a cash incentive in 2010 to stop the violence.
We know you're doing these crimes out of desperation. We know you're out selling drugs or shooting rivals or gang violence because partly that you don't have enough money to operate your life. And so with the $1,000 stipend, they've been pretty successful.
In 2021, Dudley says San Francisco started a similar program. By 2016, the Richmond program saw gunshot wounds and killings fell about 50% since the fellowship, which including that cash incentive, began. Now the city of Syracuse is looking at that idea, which Dudley says is something city councilors should consider carefully.
Before they finalize on the distribution of money, they need to see the full plan, what the plan looks like as far as who's identified, what their track record is, what does this program get them.
The Syracuse mayor's office to reduce gun violence is looking to pay 50 young people to keep the peace.
On the other side of this is the gang member, the high-risk community member who has to buy into this.
They're going to start taking this stipend. They're going to come in and fill out a tick sheet saying that they've not been involved in violence, they haven't been arrested. And then it's incumbent on them to follow the rules of the program. But again, in the measurements and in the supervision, are they really being truthful? Are they staying out of trouble because they're delegating enforcement to someone else?
Exclusive 10-day forecast, 52 near normal for tomorrow. Rain and snow mix develops on Friday. Hopefully again, according to forecast, I think this is mainly going to be on grassy surfaces, so it'll mainly just be wet on the roads. That'll go into early Saturday. Tapers off with below average temperature Saturday, high 45. Spring ahead on Sunday. Could see a rain or snow shower late. Rain or snow showers around for Monday, but again, temperatures above freezing. Could see a stray flake or a raindrop on Tuesday. The temperatures may actually go above average once again by the end of next week.
Jonathan, thank you. Well, finally tonight, we are celebrating Maryland's powerful women on this International Women's Day. Maryland's Legislative Black Caucus highlighting the efforts of its 34 women members in Annapolis. And how about all the women athletes out there? Maryland Volleyball sharing these action shots of the team as it shows its energy. And our own Megan Gillen with a heartfelt message to her beautiful daughters, encouraging all the girls and young women out there to dream big. Just beautiful. Well, that's all for Fox 45 News at 6. Family Feud's up next. We'll see you back here for the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.